Hey everyone, welcome back to Hawk Talk. This is going to be a different type of video. It's not going to be a preview or a post-game analysis. We've decided that since the Seahawks playoff hopes are virtually ended for this season, we're going to be doing a off-season preview, and this is going to be more of a discussion type video. So we'll be talking about stages of the off-season, and we'll start with right after the Super Bowl when most coaching firing and hiring happens. What do you guys think is going to happen with mainly Pete Carroll?
Before we get started, Santosh, we never really had a chance after like week 10.
Now that they're virtually over, because
Okay.
like, come on, like we all had like at least one glimmer of hope that we would. Up until like the Washington game
Yeah.
is when we were like, oh, we can still run the table. And then after the Washington game, I was like, all right, maybe we should sit down.
Yeah.
I think we should start with Pete. We had the big white-haired elephant in the room, Pete Carroll.
Yes.
What do you guys think about?
I definitely think I feel like he's gonna get fired. It's either gonna be him or Russell Wilson. Because Pete Carroll has such a grasp on the team and all personnel decisions. I think it's either gonna be him or Russell Wilson. But I think that for the better of the team, I think Pete Carroll should get fired, so we can like get a new younger coach to like change the philosophy, kind of like what the Rams did with Sean McVay.
So I mean, that's interesting. I think there was a report earlier in the week from ESPN. I don't know. Some people got the notification on their phone, but that Pete Carroll was hinted that both him and Russell Wilson would be back for the 2022 season, right? Like more of a retool type of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to feel about that. It's the same problems every year. We try to retool every single year, try to get better every single year, and something goes wrong, right? 2019, it was the running backs getting hurt. 2020 was the running backs getting hurt, and us just inexplicably our offense just sputtering out at the end of the season. 2018, we just were not good enough, right? We would like our play calling wasn't good enough in 2018. 2017 injuries, 2016 injuries, right? So like everything, every single year goes wrong, and we try to retool every single year, and it's just not working, right? And
Yeah.
then earlier today, there was a report that came out about Bobby Wagner being uncertain about staying, right? So there's conflicting reports, and I don't know what to think.
Yeah. Also, the Seahawks, I feel like need to get out of that win now mode and like kind of build for the future, because they're always like signing players over the offseason, like veterans. Like I mean, it's good to sign veterans. You get locker room leadership and stuff, but
I mean, you have Russell Wilson in his prime, right?
yeah. But like they need to like kind of get younger players and build for the future, so they can have a chance at longer. Like
So you think we should trade Russell Wilson?
No. We should
Because I
keep.
mean,
We
if
should
you have
def-
Russell Wilson, you can't really do that.
Yeah, I mean, like for like the offensive line or maybe the defense, we need some key pieces in the secondary still. Like you only have one good cornerback right now, and he's injured. So yeah.
Yeah, I think so I think it's kind of I think for me personally, since I started watching football a couple of years ago, or since I really started following it in 2018, uh it's always been like paradise in Seattle. Like, nothing's ever been going like wrong with like, the coaches and stuff until last year, I guess you could call it, when Russell Wilson started speaking up, and then Brian Schottenheimer left. And I think there's just been like this picture that like nothing goes wrong in Seattle, and I think everyone started believing that, including the Seattle organization itself. And now things are going wrong, and I think it's time for a change. I don't think the Seahawks should trade Russell Wilson because he's obviously uh, a great player. I mean, yeah, he is a great player, and like, even though I will have to say there are, younger guys that are looking to be like they will be better than Russell Wilson in the next couple of years, but he's still a top tier quarterback. So I think they should keep him. And I mean, honestly, at this point, I think Pete Carroll is probably going to retire soon. So it's either going to be Pete Carroll retiring or Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll going at it for one last time and seeing what's going to happen after that.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Russell Wilson, I think when you have Russell Wilson, you never really rebuild, right? Because when we were walking into 2018, that was the year where we dismantled the whole Legion of Boom. I don't know if you guys remember that year, but that was the year that Doug Baldwin was injured for most of the season. That's when Tyler Lockett started emerging, right? I remember that season. It was one of my favorite seasons because most games we went 10-6 that season. I still remember this because we were supposed to be a rebuilding team, right? And we started off bad. We started off 0-2, and people were like, "Yeah, this is the end of Seattle, right? Russell Wilson's going to leave next year. He's going to get it. He's going to be traded to somewhere." But we never really rebuilt that season because we were still in games and we had Russell Wilson to keep us in games, and then our defense would bend not break. And we've tried that for so many years now. Even in 2019, that was the case. 2019, we had DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, but apart from that, right? Like, there's no real compelling evidence that we had a good defense, other than maybe Bobby Wagner getting a lot of tackles, right? So, and even then, Bobby Wagner getting so many tackles for so many seasons is because the defense is out there for so long for the past few years, right? Now, this season, this past couple of seasons, we've had time of possession has been really bad. This season, I think that's because of the new offensive coordinator, and that might be why, right? This new offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron. I don't think it's certainly his fault. It's that installing a new scheme, a new offensive scheme on an offense with a ton of veteran players in an offseason where they want to win, right? In 1 year, it's not going to happen, right? And I think I said this at the beginning of the season too, that the offense will struggle this year, and it's not going to be great because it's a new offensive scheme being installed into not a team with young players that are going to be learning fast, right? This is a win now team, and when you're bringing in a new offense, that's really tough, right? And then defensively, we talked about how Saaketh was talking about, hey, like the coaching staff, there wasn't really any problems. I've been hearing fire Ken Norton for the past 3 years, except Ken Norton has actually done a pretty amazing job the past year, I'd say. Right. I think for what he's been given, I think Ken Norton has done a pretty good job this season, especially. He's turned it around after the first four weeks after they cut Trey Flowers. I mean, this defense has been locks. So I don't really see the excuses made for Ken Norton, but yeah, I think it's time we start holding the offense accountable.
Yeah, I also think so. There's this article that I read which it said Pete Carroll believes in his philosophy of running the ball first and not giving the ball to the other team. And that really isn't working from what we can tell this season, because time of possession is lopsided. Like we're getting maybe a quarter, maybe 20 minutes here and there, but that's pretty much it for time of possession. Like, it doesn't really work. I mean, it makes sense, the philosophy makes sense, but it doesn't work when your time of possession is so off, and your offense is out there for 2 plays and they're trying to clutch up and get points, and then they're off 3 and out, they can't make anything happen, and then the defense has to stay off for the entire game pretty much, and they're getting tired. I mean, like Santosh said, it makes sense that Bobby Wagner is getting so many tackles because the defense is out there the majority of the game. So
top 5 tackle leaders, Jordan Brooks and Bobby Wagner are 1 and 3, I think.
Yeah.
Right? So it's I mean, I think the time of possession thing, Dwayne Brown has been exceedingly underperforming this week. I don't even know if that's a term that you can use, but he's been underperforming. I mean, he's getting up there in age, but if you see, Dwayne Brown has been uncharacteristically bad this season, right? So I think that's where, when you try to start running the ball with that offensive line, they tried to retool in the offseason with Gabe Jackson, but I mean, honestly, I think you just, at this point, You keep Damian Lewis, and you tear the whole thing apart, right? With the offensive line, you keep Damian Lewis, you keep Gabe Jackson, everyone else is out, right? Great Dwayne Brown, he's probably going to retire after this season. Brandon Shell is average, but he just doesn't. He's not good enough, right? And then Ethan Pochik is overwhelmingly average. So I think you have to look at where the offensive linemen are in this draft. We could have had Creed Humphrey last year, but no, of course we didn't. And our draft, there's one more thing, right? Our drafting has been bad too. So we have to focus on that part where we have to build from within the trenches, and then from there we could go. The
Yeah,
good
I
thing,
think.
yeah, go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry. Yeah, I think about the offensive line. I don't think it's that. I mean, obviously the Seahawks offensive line is below average, but I think the reason for that is just defensive linemen are just. I mean, defensive like rushers are just better. Like, I mean, just to put it simply, like it's not like that the Seahawks offensive line is absolutely atrocious or anything. It's just not enough. Like, because like you know, you're and especially
It's
in
really not.
yeah, it's especially. I mean, if you look at the offensive line, like statistically, they're not half as bad as you would think they are if you see it in a game. But like in the NFC West, you go against Aaron Donald, Leonard Floyd, Nick Bosa, now JJ Watt, Chandler Jones, like twice a year, or combined, that's like 6 times a year. You can't have an above an average line just won't do in this division.
Yeah, and I don't think it's because they're uncharacteristically bad or anything. It's not that they're super bad. It's that they keep making the same mistake over and over. The Rams are our kryptonite. They have
Yeah,
been. It's not because of Sean McVay. Because Sean McVay has only been here the past 2 or 3 years. We used to lose. We used to get so swept by the Rams when Jeff Fisher was there, right? Yeah, I don't know if you guys remember. Do you guys remember the old St. Louis Rams, and we'd lose
yeah,
them
Yeah,
twice a year,
yeah.
every single year? Back
Yeah,
in
when they came back from St. Louis, it was a nightmare.
right, because it's because the Rams defensive line has figured out what to do against Pete Carroll, and that's simply all it is, right? They know what to do against Seattle, and every single year it's the same thing, and that's why the coaching staff has just been lazy with trying to come up with different things. Of course, I mean Aaron Donald. No one really can stop Aaron Donald. That's not the thing, right? It's trying your best to neutralize Aaron Donald, right? Trying to keep him out of the game as much as like just to give Russell Wilson just enough time, or change the game so that Russell Wilson doesn't have to keep the ball in his hands so many times so much. And that's one more thing, right? Where Russ is holding the ball too much. And I think in a recent press conference, he talked about how he was trying to justify like holding the ball for that long. And I think he
It
just
was
has
on the sack that happened late in the game.
against the Bears.
Yeah.
That was bad. So, and he was like, "No, that's what I do." I'm like, "No, man, no, you can't do that, right?"
I mean,
yeah. I think it's just like it's either. I mean, with Pete Carroll and the Rams, kind of like tracking back a little bit. It's just you either get different players that have the talent to stop Aaron Donald, or you just get a different philosophy. And I think they tried to do that with Gabe Jackson. It didn't really work out. I mean, Gabe Jackson, I don't think he's been atrocious, but he hasn't been anything good. So I mean, what's the point?
yeah. Also, kind of change up that scheme, I guess. The Seahawks haven't been really putting DK Metcalf in those quick slants over the middle. Like he had a great catch against Jalen Ramsey in the Rams game. Like he caught the ball. He had 5 yards or so, like 6 yards, which is really good. It's gonna get you going, and it's gonna get the momentum going. Like we don't really see the Seahawks wide receivers ever going down the middle. Like maybe Tyler Lockett on when the play breaks down, but
Not even.
Yeah,
I
they just go to the
that?
sidelines. Like it.
yeah.
Yeah, I think you could with the talent. I mean, it's just with the talent the Seahawks have, you could do so many things. Like, I mean, look at this team, just like players wise. Let's see on the offense. You have Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett, and DK Metcalf on the offense. That's already, if you look at it on paper, that's supposed to
Gerald
be.
Everett, Chris Carson.
Yeah, I mean Chris Carson if he's healthy, but that's supposed right there. That's supposed to be a top 5 offense. You go to the defense. You have Bobby Wagner, Quandary Diggs, and Jamal Adams. That's all supposed to be a top 10 defense. but
And
it's
Jordan
not.
Brooks.
Yeah, Jordan Brooks, but it's not. And if I'm going to be completely honest, I don't think it's the player's fault because a player, I mean, you saw this with James Conner this year. A player has a certain amount of talent, in their career. They have like things they can do. But then the other half of a player's career is the coaches, like who they play for. James Conner, we saw that one year in 2018 where he like absolutely took off, had a great year. And after that, he was non-existent. But then the second he came to Arizona, he had, what is it, like 15 touchdowns this year? That's like he can do it. It's just the coaching is not great.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good example, but I feel like if you take, I mean, James Conner is an interesting example because injuries and everything, and that's why they let him go. But if you look at the Cardinals this year, the Cardinals compared to last year, I mean, they added a few pieces in free agency, but their coaching staff was really the same, right? I mean, mostly the same. They kept Cliff Kingsbury, they kept Vance Joseph. So I feel like we shouldn't rush to conclusions when it comes to our coaching staff or like firing them. It's that we have to hold them accountable. And the difference is that the Cardinals were able to figure something out and actually be able to like kill their weaknesses and still keep those like players around and still rally around and actually control like their weaknesses, right? Whereas like we make the same mistakes every single year, right?
I
And it
mean,
seems like that every single year.
yeah, but like then again, the Cardinals are like a young team. Like they built their pieces around Kyler Murray. They brought in DeAndre
Oh, I mean,
Hopkins.
we've done that though.
Yeah, yeah,
We
yeah.
like we've been doing that for so long now, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's just like we just are hesitant to change stuff, and that I think
Yeah.
that starts with Pete Carroll.
Yeah. We're not too comfortable with taking risk. Like, for example, like every analyst in the NFL when Patrick Mahomes was like in the draft, everybody was like, he's a bust. He's not gonna do anything. He's like, why are the Chiefs like trading up to get him? And now look what they built around him. Like it's like a contending team, like hands down, like one of the best teams in the NFL right now.
Yeah, and I
I
think
mean,
yeah,
yeah.
go ahead.
No, I'm done. You can go.
Okay, so I mean, it's not that like we don't like the Seahawks coaches and players and whatnot. Obviously, we love the Seahawks and we love the organization, know what they're doing, but it's just like it's just like the little things at this point, this season especially. It's just those tiny little things like those third downs, those fourth downs, taking those risks. That defense just like that one missed tackle that turns into a huge 30-yard play. So I mean, that's pretty much it, I think, for the coaches part. But I think it's not that we hate the coaches. It's not like that the Seahawks should do a complete rebuild. It's just something something just needs to click or something has to change.
Yeah, and I mean one of those things is like the draft, right? And we've struggled with the draft the past few years, but now when you look at, and now we're kind of like the laughing stock a little bit this upcoming year because we traded first round picks for Jamal Adams, which I mean honestly I'm fine with. I don't really care about that part, but I mean the fact is that we did so bad that now the Jets have a top pick and that could have been ours, right? But I think when you start with the second round, I think that John Snyder is going to be looking to build through the draft, not in the first round, but through the middle and later rounds of the draft. So he could be using that high second round pick and then using those later picks to gain more picks, which is really it's what he does all the time. But I think he starts looking in those later rounds of the drafts, and I really, really have to hit on corner and center in this draft, and I think we also have to hit on the tackle positions, and we start developing Stone Forsyth, and that'll be good for us.
Also, another thing that's kind of infuriating is like the Seahawks always trying to find the diamond in the rough, like in the later rounds, like trying to develop him, like Chris Carson. But that doesn't always happen, and they should like be more aggressive in the draft and try to get players in the first three rounds. Like that would be way more beneficial in it instead of trying to find a diamond in the rough, like way
Yeah.
down in like the 7th round or something like that.
I don't think I didn't say that he should do that. I'm just saying that's probably what he's going to do.
Yeah.
But I think Santosh kind of covered it. I think the first, I'm gonna be completely honest. I think our first draft pick should be a cornerback. And we predicted it earlier this season. I mean, earlier before the season started on the channel actually, about Trey Brown, the cornerback. We thought he was going to be a good player. We thought he was going to take 2 years to develop, but I mean, he not necessarily, because like this year, the plays he's made, open field tackling, is something he's really good at. So I think even, we have DJ Reed and Sidney Jones, but again, it goes back to like the offensive line. None of them are bad, but none of them are outstanding. And in this division and in this league, you can't have average cornerbacks. I mean, you could, but you just see what happens when you go against DeAndre Hopkins and Cooper Kupp twice a year.
Damian Lewis has had a sophomore slump.
Yeah.
So he's been pretty bad this year too. But I think he'll bounce back next year. And Gabe Jackson will be good next year too. It's just those other 3 positions: center, left tackle, and right tackle. And I think Jake Curhan has been a nice find at right tackle. So I think he'll get a starting job there next year as well. And it's just looking for a good center, and hopefully Stone Forsett becomes a good left tackle for us.
Yeah. So other than that, I think that's pretty much near the end-ish of our video today. We're just going to talk about a couple of, just like player extensions who we think we should extend. I'll start off this discussion with Rashad Penny, because I do think the Seahawks should extend him. If you asked me this question, man, even like a month ago, I would have said no, cut Rashad Penny. But I mean, that's just because he hasn't been able to get the touches that he needs. And now that he has, and now that he's shown what he can do, I think signing him not to like a big deal, but maybe like a 2-year deal is a smart choice, because we do have Chris Carson. Rashad Penny would be a great backup. And when Chris Carson goes down, because we know he gets hurt pretty often, Rashad Penny can really shine.
I think the first player. Oh yeah, go ahead, Abhi.
Yeah. So what I was going to say is basically, instead of having Rashad Penny as like a backup and giving him like secondary reps, like throw both Chris Carson and Rashad Penny out there. Just like let him have the reps, like see what happens. Like give them
like
equal
split
reps.
the carries. Split the carries.
Yeah. Split the carries.
So like kind of like the Cleveland Browns, what they're doing, like with the Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb.
Yeah, and then if we do that, we could like define who's going to be the starter for next season, and just like kind of just like test them out for next season maybe.
And don't forget Alex Collins. We still have him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been kind of quiet because of injuries, but I mean, he shows up when the Seahawks really need him, I guess.
Alex Collins is a nice depth piece, but I don't think he'll make a difference when it comes to Rashad Penny and Chris Carson.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I'm just saying, like, if one of them happens to get injured, like, he's a good choice. And DJ Dallas, like DJ Dallas has been a great, I would say. Special teams, he's been amazing, along with Nick Ballore and a couple of those other guys. But I think, DJ Dallas is also. It's also nice to see him how he developed. I mean, last year, let's put it this way, he averaged like 2.5 yards a carry last year, and he made that good jump from his first year to the second year, and now he's doing pretty well.
I think the first.
And we also have Travis Homer. Like,
oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I think we're good at running back.
I think the first player that we need to extend this season is Quandary Diggs. So
is he on the end of his contract?
Yeah, so he's lining up for an extension. So
then the Seahawks definitely need to extend him.
So Quandary is the first player. He's been outstanding this year, and he's been the best safety in the NFC. And he's going to be making the Pro Bowl. So I think the Quandary Diggs, Rashad Penny, and those two you have to get back, right? But yeah, that's the end of our video for today. Thanks for watching. It was a good discussion. We hope you liked it, and we'll see you guys next time.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.